Chapter 551, The Terrifying Tyrant Dragon. Whoa. Tang Wuling cried out. The ground was rapidly approaching. With no other choice, he braced himself for impact. The moment his feet hit the ground, he bent over and rolled forward. Fortunately, his powerful legs allowed him to withstand most of the landing. Although rolling mitigated the rest, Gu Yue was on his back. This made her his main concern, and he twisted to make sure he protected her as well. The two of them rolled across the grass, tumbling end over end until they were splayed flat on their backs side by side. Tang Wuling looked over at Gu Yue helplessly, but in spite of this little incident, Gu Yue was smiling at him. Tang Wuling groaned and stared up at the sky. Seriously, what is up with you today? You're acting super weird. Gu Yue's smile grew wider. For a couple days every month, girls have to deal with a bit of trouble. Get it now, mister? A bit of trouble every month? Tang Wuling turned back to Gu Yue, a blank look on his face. Yeah. It's that time of the month, Gu Yue said, hints of crimson warming her cheeks. What time of the month? Tang Wuling asked. Gu Yue turned sour at that, and she muttered, you don't need to know. Tang Wuling looked at her in confusion. You're not picking up on any cues today. Our teamwork feels horrible. Do you think we can keep going? If not, we might as well just call it quits. Gu Yue rolled her eyes. Fine. I'm done with you. Tang Wuling opened his mouth to retort, but as soon as he did, the forest suddenly grew dark. Both of them turned their attention skyward to see a gigantic head. It was looking down upon them with eyes as large as water jugs. Tang Wuling immediately shot to his feet and grabbed Gu Yue. What the hell is that? Thanks to the diamond boar's devastation of the surrounding trees, they had a clear view of this colossus. It stood over 60 meters tall and had a bulky body, as if it were a small mountain. It was covered ashen scales of irregular shapes. Its enormous head accounted for nearly a quarter of its size, and its large eyes seemed to peer down at them as if they were ants. Its tail was thick and weighty, and its mouth was large enough to swallow even the biggest of the diamond boars whole. Tang Wuling couldn't believe their luck. Shit. I should have known that a herd of diamond boars wouldn't act so wildly unless they were running away from something. This thing has got to be one of the strongest beasts in the forest. The beast opened its mouth and let out a roar that resounded through the forest and seemed to shake the heavens and earth. The resulting wave of sound slammed into Tang Wuling and Gu Yue, sending them flying backward and crashing to the ground. Damn, it's strong. Tang Wuling stood back up and looked at the colossal beast. He couldn't tell what year level it was at, and he certainly didn't remember what it was. A moment later, the scene before him changed. Gu Yue had teleported them behind the cover of a tree. It's a tyrant dragon. Gu Yue whispered into Tang Wuling's ear. A king of land dragons. Are you sure it's a land dragon? Tang Wuling whispered back. I'm sure, she replied. I never thought the Spirit Ascension platform would have something anything like it. Tyrant dragons went extinct ages ago, so our textbooks don't even bother mentioning them anymore. I only know of them because I've read some of the older books in the Spirit Pagoda's library. Fully grown tyrant dragons can stand toe-to-toe with true dragons. This one seems to be at the 10,000 year level, but it would crush ordinary 10,000 years old beasts. We're in trouble. It has an extremely keen sense of smell. Let's try and fight it. Tang Wuling exclaimed. If my bloodline doesn't weaken it, you need to escape immediately. Before Gu Yue could get a word in, Tang Wuling dashed from cover. He had no other choice. The tyrant dragon was upon them. He couldn't believe that a beast so gigantic could move so silently. It managed to get so close without them noticing. Tang Wuling leapt directly at the tyrant dragon, opened his mouth wide, and let out a draconic roar. He urged his blood essence into action and unleashed golden dragon body. His blood essence surged in reverse, making his body burst with a powerful aura. He raised his hands toward the sky and used golden dragon shocks the heavens to summon a gigantic phantom dragon head. However, he didn't use it to attack the tyrant dragon. Instead, he directed it straight into the sky. Judging by the size of the beast, as well as Gu Yue's description of it, Tang Wuling knew he couldn't beat it. It was in an entirely different league from the current him. His only option was to try and scare it away so they had a chance to flee. Golden dragon shocks the heavens was the one ability that boosted the might of his blood essence the most. He had bet everything on it succeeding. Just as Tang Wuling predicted, the tyrant dragon was nearly on top of them the moment he leapt into the air. It simply cocked its head to the side, staring at them as if it had never seen humans before, like it wasn't sure whether they were tasty or not. It wasn't afraid of Tang Wuling's attack. It was just curious about what sort of attacks foreign creatures like them could unleash with their insignificant levels of soul power. It didn't see any reason to kill such weak prey right away. A moment after Tang Wuling roared, the tyrant dragon looked up and roared as well. Its roar sent shockwaves throughout the area. Tang Wuling felt his blood essence boil over. A mighty will exploded from the depths of the golden dragon king's power. The dragon head he summoned unleashed a roar that eclipsed his own and brimmed with oppressive might. Although it wasn't as loud as the tyrant dragon's roar, it was just as clear. Tang Wuling felt power blossoming within him. Then the space around him shifted, pulling him up into the air. Then he saw the tyrant dragon crouch low to the ground and bow to him. At the very center of its head, he could see a brilliant golden light. Tang Wuling couldn't understand what he was seeing. He heard a quiet whisper deep inside of himself, but he couldn't understand that either. Before he could even try to make sense of all this, the invisible force holding him up pulled him toward the tyrant dragon. The golden light at the center of the tyrant dragon's head flashed, and only then could Tang Wuling finally make out what it was. Right at the center of its head, shining amongst its ashen brethren, was a single golden scale. In addition to its unique color, it was also the only one that wasn't curved like an oval. Instead, it resembled a rhombus. It looked exactly like one of Tang Wuling's golden scales. What is this? Tang Wuling, he stared at the scale, then into the giant scarlet eyes of the tyrant dragon. The tyrant dragon was a small mountain in itself and was definitely the largest soul beast he had ever laid eyes on. A hint of anxiety settled into Tang Wuling's stomach. He realized now that he wasn't floating through his own power. The tyrant dragon was using its own soul power to hold him up. Tang Wuling's heart thumped. My bloodline can actually influence it this much. He had used his bloodline to suppress many beasts before, some even to the same extent as this tyrant dragon, but those beasts had all been weaker than him, or at the same level. His bloodline had minimal influence over beings that were stronger than him, such as the scarlet dragon Douluo and the blazing dragon Douluo. His bloodline probably wouldn't affect those two until he was a titled Douluo as well. Tang Wuling and the tyrant dragon stared each other down. In the middle of that deadlock, a question surfaced within his mind. I wonder how much backlash my spiritual power would suffer if it tore me to shreds right now. He might have reached the spirit sea realm, but that wouldn't do much to ease his suffering in the event that this took a turn for the worst. He gulped at the realization, a bead of sweat rolling down his forehead. At this very moment, he was a lamb on the chopping block. All he could do was push the power of his bloodline to its max and maintain golden dragon shocks the heavens as long as he could. The tyrant dragon began to open its mouth, granting Tang Wuling a clear view of its many rows of jagged teeth. Each tooth was over a meter long, thick enough for two people to wrap their arms around. Bloody chunks of meat were strewn across this forest of ivory. Tang Wuling watched as its mouth opened wider and wider, to the point where he felt it could swallow a small hill in a single gulp. Chapter 552, The Disappearance of the Tyrant Dragon. Shit. I'm at my limit. Alarm bells ringing in his head. Tang Wuling could no longer sustain golden dragon shocks the heavens. His only choice was to press the emergency escape button. But to Tang Wuling's horror, his body was kept frozen in place by a bizarre energy. The culprit none other than the tyrant dragon. This energy connected with and provoked strange changes to his blood essence. Through this connection, Tang Wuling was like a puppet, unable to move as according to will as he floated in the air. Every avenue of escaping the Spirit Ascension platform gone with the wind. Damn it. What do I do? Tang Wuling could not even cry out for help. All he could do was watch in fear as the tyrant dragon small gaped, closing in on him by the second. Shit. If you're going to kill me, at least swallow me whole. He was consumed by unadulterated terror. His palms went damp as his mind spun nightmarish threads, flashing images of those razor-sharp teeth descending, ripping him apart into bright, bloody shreds. Then those jaws were right upon him. Shit. I'm dead. Tang Wuling closed his eyes tight and held his breath, bracing himself for excruciating pain. But pain did not come. Instead, something warm and wet brushed against his body, leaving him damp and sticky. Following that sensation, he slipped into freefall. His eyes snapped open. Tang Wuling could move again. Heart pounding, he hurriedly channeled soul power through his body to mitigate the impact of landing. As he fell, he stole a glance at the tyrant dragon and saw its tongue retreating back into its mouth. Confusion flickered across Tang Wuling's face, then settled into surprised understanding. It wasn't trying to eat me, but lick me. Tang Wuling didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Either way, he was relieved to escape death. The tyrant dragon lowered its head to catch him in his landing, which occurred right at the spot of its golden scale. Tang Wuling touched it, and the instant he did, the tyrant dragon raised its head toward the sky. A deafening roar escaped from that impressive maw, shaking the forest far and wide. Somehow, Tang Wuling understood that this was a cry of joy. The golden aura seeping out of Tang Wuling slowly extended. It creeped toward the tyrant dragon, enveloping the soul beast in its embrace, starting from the single golden scale down to the tail. Tang Wuling's blood essence bubbled with excitement, the remaining 14 seals quivering. A burst of energy came forth from the depths of his blood essence, its very origin. Sensing this change, the tyrant dragon lowered itself until it was prone on the ground. Tang Wuling stood up and jumped down from the tyrant dragon's head, with his feet firmly planted on the ground once more. He turned to face the colossal dragon bathed in gold. To his shock, the tyrant dragon closed its eyes, its figure fading. In that moment, the two understood each other. The dragon's golden scale dispersed into a golden mist toward him. As the golden mist fell upon him, Tang Wuling felt a powerful energy entering his body. It grew stronger with each passing moment. He felt as if he were the sea in which all rivers terminated. Tang Wuling had been too preoccupied to notice, but the moment he had landed on the tyrant dragon, Dou broke into a mad dash toward him. She stopped a short distance away, a difficult expression on her face. How could I have forgotten? She muttered to herself. Tyrant dragons are the king of land dragons because they possess the blood of the golden dragon king. It's not pure, but it's still powerful. The golden mist lingered around Tang Wuling for a while before fusing with his body. He could once more see the world around him, and he gasped when the giant body of the tyrant dragon was nowhere to be found. The only evidence that it had not been a dream were the enormous tracks left in the ground. After getting over his surprise, Tang Wuling realized something different about his body. It felt fuller than usual, but no matter how he tried to examine himself, he couldn't figure out what had changed. The remaining 14 seals were intact, and neither his soul power nor blood essence showed any differences. Even when he summoned his blue silver grass and soul rings, all seemed just as before. Just what was that golden mist that entered me? What did it do to me? Although almost everything in the spirit ascension platform was illusory, and there was no evident change in his body, he was absolutely certain that he had gained something from that mist. He just couldn't figure out what it was. Well, at least the tyrant dragon is gone. Tang Wuling let out a long sigh, his heart finally relaxing. The crisis he had just faced once more reaffirmed his lack of strength. Before the truly strong, he was no more than an ant. Damn. But I bet even teacher would have had to run from that tyrant dragon. It was ridiculously huge. Tang Wuling searched for Dou and quickly found her a short distance away looking back at him. He broke into a jog in her direction. Were you watching all of that? Did you see how the tyrant dragon disappeared? You got any idea what happened? I feel like something has changed about me, but I have no idea what. Dou shook her head, a pensive look on her face. From what I saw, it looked like the tyrant dragon was overjoyed to fuse with you. Like one of those contracts between soul masters and spirit souls back when the spirit pagoda was first established. Back then, it was a mutual pact between both parties instead of how one-sided it is nowadays. Tang Wuling smiled wryly. There's no way it became my spirit soul. I haven't even reached rank 40. A mysterious smile formed on Dou's lips. Then I don't know. Anyway, I'm just glad we didn't turn into its food. You think we should take a moment to rest now? Tang Wuling immediately dropped to the ground on his behind. Of course we should. You have no idea how scared I was just now. That thing was gigantic. My ears are still ringing from its point-blank roar. He chuckled, falling gently on his back. I definitely need a bit to recover from that. Anyway, I doubt any soul beast will come near after all that roaring from earlier. We should be fine for a while. In a flash, he was sitting back up again. Right. Your spirit pagoda's management has got some issues. What the hell was a thing like that doing in the intermediate section? The space around him and Dou began to warp. They jumped back on their feet, surprised, alert, and alarmed, but their vision faded as quick as their reaction had been. Moments later, Tang Wuling and Dou awoke, shocked to find themselves out of the spirit ascension platform and back in their capsules. When the doors to their capsules opened, Dou immediately crawled out. Tang Wuling sluggishly sat up. Adding to his shock was the sight of a crowd of people surrounding them led by Dou's teacher, the heavenly phoenix Douluo and the vice chairman of the spirit pagoda, Leng Yaoshu. The crowd immediately focused on Tang Wuling the moment he sat up. Leng Yaoshu stepped forward from the rest and studied the two young soul masters. Eyes bright. You don't have to be nervous. There was just an unexpected issue with the spirit ascension platform, so we're investigating right now. Well then, you two come with me. Chapter 553, Willful Spirit Soul. If it had been anyone else besides the heavenly phoenix Douluo standing before him, Tang Wuling would have felt nervous. Instead, he felt at ease. It wasn't because he trusted Leng Yaoshu, however. It's because he trusted Dou, her disciple. Dou would step in to help him if needed. While the staff members rushed to run diagnostics on the spirit ascension platform, Leng Yaoshu took her time leading Tang Wuling and Dou to her office. She sat down behind her desk then gestured for them to sit as well. We've already seen what happened to you two in the platform, and it was our mistake that you encountered the tyrant dragon. It's one of the guardians for the path between the intermediate and advanced platform. The strongest one, actually. Due to our carelessness, it wandered to away from its designated zone. She sighed. To be honest, there wasn't much we could have done to control the soul beast of its level anyway. At most we could have tried to lure it in the direction we wanted. She tapped the desk with a finger, and now it's been absorbed by you. Leng Yaoshu glanced at Tang Wuling and furrowed her brows. It was the spirit pagoda's mistake to let the tyrant dragon out on a rampage, and normally they would have had to compensate any soul masters who suffered from it. However, the boy before her had absorbed the tyrant dragon whole. When the spirit pagoda staff members first caught wind of this situation, they had been shocked silly. The moment Leng Yaoshu had heard that her disciple, Dou was in the spirit ascension platform and in the vicinity of the rampaging tyrant dragon, she rushed over prepared for the worst. She had made it just in time to watch on the monitoring screens the tyrant dragon dissolving into mist, fusing with Tang Wuling. Tang Wuling let out a strange smile. Your Eminence, would you believe me if I said I don't know what happened either? I would. Just tell me what you felt, Leng Yaoshu said, not an ounce of doubt in her mind. She couldn't imagine such a bright teenager, especially one kind enough to help his friends obtain spirit souls, to dare deceive her. Furthermore, she had already investigated his relationship with Dou and found him quite favorable. Tang Wuling scratched his chin, eyes wondering as he gathered his thoughts. I have a draconic bloodline, but it didn't awaken as a true martial soul. I guess you could say it's a sort of unconventional awakening. He shrugged. When I use my bloodline's power, I emit a draconic aura that suppresses most draconic soul beasts. And when I encountered that tyrant dragon, I immediately realized it was impossible to defeat it. But I figured since I was in the spirit ascension platform, I might as well try. Without hiding a single thing, Tang Wuling recounted the rest of the events to Leng Yaoshu, from what his plan of attack to the lack of changes within him after absorbing the tyrant dragon. Leng Yaoshu placed a hand on her chin. Wuling, I'm embarrassed that you had to go through all that because of our mistake. However, the situation is a bit special this time. I'm afraid we'll need you to cooperate for some medical examinations. Before Tang Wuling could get a word in, Dou frowned and stepped forward. Teacher, why do we need to do that? Our trip into the spirit ascension platform this time was interrupted, and you admit that it was the fault of our spirit pagoda. So why does Wuling need to be examined? Leng Yaoshu glared at her, sharp and cold. If the situation was so simple, then we'd just compensate you two and call it a day. But don't forget that every soul beast in the spirit ascension platform was created from something. She chuckled at Tang Wuling's expression. His eyes were wide as realization dawned on him. You don't have to worry. It's just a routine inspection, Leng Yaoshu said. And actually, many powerful soul masters already know the truth behind the spirit ascension platform. So it's fine if you know too. The majority of the soul beasts in the platform are spirit souls either crafted or cloned by the spirit pagoda. The guardians, however, are real spirit souls that once roamed the world. Using technology, we send just your minds into the platform along with a mark. When you kill soul beasts, their energy is absorbed by your mark, and that mark transfers that energy back to your physical body once you exit the platform. The spirit pagoda's greatest source of income is our creation of spirit souls, but in the process of creating spirit souls, there are sure to be some defective ones. The defects aren't suitable for soul masters to fuse with. Instead, we put them through a special process then release them into the spirit ascension platform. Those are the beasts you encounter in the platform. When you kill them, their soul power and physical abilities are converted into pure energy capable of nourishing your soul rings. That's the truth behind the spirit ascension platform, but not all of the soul beasts in the platform are defective products. For the sake of the system's stability, especially in the intermediate and advanced sections, we have added some complete spirit souls to improve system performance. Following this wealth of new information, Tang Wuling now saw the spirit pagoda in a new light. Awe filled him. Although the heavenly phoenix Douluo spoke lightly of such secrets, he understood that the technology required for such a system was far more advanced than anything he had previously heard of. It was technology refined over thousands of years of research, finally culminating as the Spirit Ascension Platform, Battle Armor, Artificial Spirit Souls, and the Spirit Ascension Platform were all technological advancements that marked the advent of a new era. Each of these technologies brought humanity to a new level of existence and had enabled humans to push soul beasts to the brink of extinction. And the Spirit Pagoda had played a central role in the creation of all three. To say Tang Wuling had gained more insight into the strength of the Spirit Pagoda would not be a lie. Your Eminence, then the tyrant dragon we encountered is. Tang Wuling did not dare to voice his complete thoughts. Ling Yaoshu's narrowed eyes pierced him. It was authentic. One of our willful spirit souls. Willful spirit souls? Tang Wuling asked, curious of this new term. Ling Yaoshu nodded. In order to answer your question, we have to first go over the permanence of spirit souls. Generally speaking, spirit souls begin dissipating the moment a soul beast dies. The Spirit Pagoda uses many unique technologies to preserve those spirit souls so we have enough time to find a suitable soul master for them. Right now we're even researching how to recycle spirit souls. That way when a soul master dies, as long as they're delivered to the Spirit Pagoda within 3 days, we'll be able to extract their spirit souls and preserve them for reuse. If we can get this system working, then we'd save a lot of resources. Of course, such cutting-edge research takes time to verify the viability, and we need soul masters willing to volunteer to help us, which is really rare since it's inevitable to suffer some degree of damage when a spirit soul is extracted. Now when talking about willful spirit souls, there are more things to consider. Willful spirit souls are extraordinarily resilient and strong. They last longer. Simply storing them drains a significant amount of the Spirit Pagoda's resources. Fortunately, after we created the Spirit Ascension Platform, we discovered a way to put them into the platform. This both improved the system stability of the Spirit Ascension Platform and provided us with a cost-effective way of storing the willful spirit souls. And the tyrant dragon is a willful spirit soul? Tang Wuling asked. Ling Yaoshu nodded. Yes, and it's one of the most powerful and haughty. There are few soul beasts that can boast its level of arrogance. Once, a rank 90 soul master was attracted to its domineering attitude and tried to fuse with it for their final spirit soul, but it broke free, the backlash killing the soul master. She sighed. We've been holding onto its spirit soul for so long that it was already on the verge of disappearing for good. Not to mention it was the last of its kind. It was the epitome of ill-behaved, always rampaging and devouring herds of other soul beasts. We even considered euthanizing it, but couldn't bear to extinguish such a rare historical spirit soul. Saying that we were at an impasse as to what to do with it would be an understatement. Saying that the tyrant dragon's unyielding will has never been tamed before would be an undeniable truth. At least, until you came and absorbed it today. We're really curious how this happened, so we want you to stay for a bit and let us gather some data. Like I said earlier, willful spirit souls are incredibly hard to fuse with and cost us an enormous amount of resources to preserve. We need to get some data on it to present to the Spirit Pagoda's council. You don't have to worry about the examination. It'll be just like a routine medical checkup, and we'll share our data with you too. I've already informed Shrek Academy, so some teachers will be coming over to monitor your physical examination. Chapter 554, Rivals in Love. Is it really that big of a deal? Even the Academy got notified. At the thought of Shrek Academy sending over people to watch over him, Tang Wuling felt his nervousness settle into relief. I understand, Your Eminence. I'll do my best to cooperate, he said, beaming. The fact that his body showed no changes after he absorbed the tyrant dragon still puzzled Tang Wuling, however, especially after how mighty and great Ling Yaoshu had made the soul beast out to be. Great. Take a seat while we wait for the people from Shrek, Ling Yaoshu said. If it were any soul master other than Tang Wuling, they would have already left for the examination room. But he was different. Not only was he Gu Yue's friend, he was also a top student at Shrek Academy. Even in her lofty position at the Spirit Pagoda, she had heard tales of his exploits and his value in the eyes of the Academy. Even a simple physical examination would cause trouble if the Academy disagreed with any part of the procedure. As a result, Ling Yaoshu immediately informed them of what happened when she had first been privy to the details. Several minutes later, a staff member entered the room and approached Ling Yaoshu's side. She whispered, Your Eminence, the people from Shrek Academy have arrived. Who came? Ling Yaoshu asked. A trace of hesitation flashed across the staff member's face. She lowered her head and said quietly, It's the Holy Spirit Douluo. Ling Yaoshu's expression froze, but it came and went so quickly that a blink would cause one to miss it. She straightened her body, then she shot to her feet. Please come in. Tang Wuling turned to the door just in time to see Yali enter. He had to sneak a double take. Though uncertain if she had put in more effort into her appearance, Tang Wuling was sure of one thing. Today Yali was the picture of seraphic allure. A long white dress hugged her curves, her skin so fair and delicate that her advanced age was inconceivable. Your Eminence, Heavenly Phoenix, Yali said, gently nodding toward Ling Yaoshu. Big sis Yali, why are you acting like such a stranger? Ling Yaoshu walked over with a smile. She wrapped her arms around Yali, and if it were a random bystander viewing this picturesque scene, they would think it was a usual occurrence for the two. Yali also smiled, though hers was a shade more wry. I need to act professionally, you know. Well, I'll listen up a bit just for you. She sighed. It's been a long time. I've missed you. Anyway, what's up? What kind of trouble did Wuling make for you? Ling Yaoshu chuckled. It's just a small issue, so don't worry. And it's not really his fault either. It's ours. She proceeded to recount the events to Yali. Throughout the report, Yali never confirmed a single detail with Tang Wuling. She knew that Ling Yaoshu wouldn't lie to her, both out of consideration for their relationship and as a representative of the Spirit Pagoda. Once Ling Yaoshu finished, Yali nodded and smiled. All right. I'll accompany him to the examination. I'm sure things will be fine as long as I watch the whole thing. Of course. Yali walked to Tang Wuling's side, placing a hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll be with you through it all. I'll escort you back to Shrek right after we're done too. Although Yali's voice had been gentle, he picked up on the absolute confidence hidden in her words. It was both reassuring and astonishing. Tang Wuling had always thought Yali to be a saintess so kind that she couldn't harm an ant, but now he saw a different, more proud side to her. Soon after, Tang Wuling was brought to a large room filled with an assortment of instruments and devices, most of which he could not identify. Then a series of tests passed by in a blur. While lying down on the examination table, he felt as if he was some sort of puppet as the researchers poked and prodded him, manipulating his body as they wished. But it wasn't unpleasant. If Tang Wuling were to be strictly honest, the situation was more tedious than anything. Everything went smoothly besides one part, and that was when it came time for the technicians to draw his blood. Tang Wuling's skin and muscle were too tough for an ordinary needle to pierce through. In the end, he had to cut himself with his own dragon claw to allow blood to be drawn. Gu Yue stood beside him for the entire event. She bit her lip and suppressed her impulses as she watched them draw his blood. 2 hours later, the physical examination came to an end. Normally Tang Wuling wouldn't be tired even after a full day of training, but this whirlwind of researchers and doctors left him exhausted and disoriented. When Gu Yue brought him a glass of water, he downed it instantly, trying his best to calm his mind. It's finally over. Tang Wuling sighed. Gu Yue lowered her head. Sorry. Her voice was so soft that if he went right next to her, he would have just missed it. Huh? What are you sorry for? Tang Wuling asked. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum. If I hadn't, then we wouldn't have come to the Spirit Ascension platform. She frowned. Actually, I saw you with Naya today. Tang Wuling furrowed his brow in confusion. Why would I blame you? I wanted to come anyway. We were just unlucky, that's all. And what's this about Naya? Did she? It's nothing. Before he could pry more information from her, the two titled Douluos approached them. Wuling, let's go back now, Yali said, pulling him up by the hand. Seeing Yali so urgent to depart, Ling Yaoshu summoned her warmest smile. Big sis Yali, it's been so long since we last saw each other. How about I treat you to a meal? The results of the examination will be out in 2 hours, so we can take that time to catch up. Sorry, Yali said, shaking her head. I've got something to take care of back at Shrek. He's still waiting for me, you see. Well then, let's get going, Wuling. They made their way for the door. The staff member at the door saw Ling Yaoshu's darkening expression and cast an inquisitive look. In response, Ling Yaoshu silently shook her head. No one dared to obstruct Yali and Tang Wuling's path as left the Spirit Pagoda. Once Yali was gone, Ling Yaoshu slammed her hand down on a nearby table. Gu Yue jumped. She had never before seen her teacher lose composure. Teacher, are you okay? Concern filled her voice. She came just to show off. Ling Yaoshu spat out the words. What's so amazing about her? Holy saint my ass. Gu Yue gaped in silence. What's the story between them? Once past the gates of the spirit pagoda, Yali summoned blanket of white energy. It enveloped her and Tang Wulin, blurring the outside world and completely isolating them. Are you wondering why I acted like that? Yali asked. She couldn't help but smile when she caught him balking at her. Tang Wulin nodded honestly. He had never seen Yali act like this before. The ferocity hidden by her grace was shocking. I didn't actually need to come today, but when I heard this matter involved Ling Yaoshu, there's no way I could let her bully you. Let me tell you a little secret. She's actually my rival in love. A hint of animosity shined in Yali's eyes for a brief moment. Wulin, you're a talented boy. I'm sure you'll become a capable man if you continue to work hard, but you need to pay more attention to matters of the heart, especially because of how excellent you are. As you grow older and more capable, you're going to attract many girls. But you better not be fickle in love. Decide on who holds your heart and commit your entire being to them. You better not act like a certain man. Back in the Sea God's Pavilion, one man in particular sneezed out of the blue. I shouldn't be affected by the cold anymore. Why did I sneeze? Is someone talking about me? 2 hours passed. Sitting in a conference room within the spirit pagoda, Ling Yaoshu swept her gaze from the head of the table across the various department heads and middle-tier managers. The door swung open. A staff member walked into the room and said, Your Eminence, the examination results are out. Ling Yaoshu nodded. Good. Present them to us. The staff member immediately took out a small projection device and shined Tang Wulin's figure onto a bare wall. Standing behind Ling Yaoshu, Gu Yue frowned and pressed her lips tight together. This was her first time seeing him in such a vulnerable state, and it made her heart throb. Chapter 555. Analysis report. The staff member began reading the report. Tang Wulin, a 14-year-old male, class president of Shrek Academy's first grade. Something of note is that their current class of freshmen is praised as the strongest in the last century. The fact that he's their class president would indicate his excellence. Today, Tang Wulin arrived at the Spirit Ascension platform, and the staff member finished narrating the events before Tang Wulin's physical examination. Following his strange absorption of the tyrant dragon, we've conducted a detailed examination and analysis of his body. What we've discovered is astounding. First, we cannot find any trace of the tyrant dragon within his body. In other words, although we know for certain he absorbed the tyrant dragon, it's as if his body never absorbed it in the first place. Low murmurs filled the room. That doesn't make any sense, said an elderly man known as Elder Tian. The tyrant dragon is a willful spirit soul. The energy it possesses is monumental. Even 10,000-year spirit souls don't stand a match against it. There's no way a 3-ringed soul master could bear all of its energy. It's impossible for there to be no trace of it. Impossible. I agree that it makes no sense. But facts are fact, said the staff member. Elder Tian, we've been very thorough with our examination, and I can assure you that there were no traces of the tyrant dragon. That child did not lie. Ling Yaoshu waved her hand. Continue on with the analysis. Yes. The staff member nodded. The second surprising thing we discovered was the identity of his martial soul. It's actually blue silvergrass. As I'm sure everyone is aware, it's a martial soul that normally holds no future. She smiled, her excitement visibly rising. We also found a strange energy within his blood. So bizarre that we were doubtful he was human at first. But after running some more tests, we confirmed he is indeed human. That said, the strange energy in his blood far exceeds the mortal limit and seems to be affecting his martial soul. Is he a hybrid? Asked Elder Tian. The staff member shook her head. He's human from head to toe, but the energy within his blood is enormous. Furthermore, that energy is completely fused with his blood cells, and we're unable to separate the two. This bond is similar to that between one's martial soul and one's blood. The difference is the energy from the martial soul would usually dissipate into the air when the blood leaves the body. His did not. The energy remained bonded. This is an unprecedented discovery. We also conducted tests on his physical abilities. His strength is... How do I put this? If I were to make a comparison, it's like he's already as physically strong as a 6-ring soul emperor, and I mean one that's an assault type 2, be it his bones, meridians, internal organs, or muscles. They've all reached that level. Everyone present was stunned. Finally, a middle-aged man spoke up. My God. That boy really is a little monster raised by Shrek. His abilities are crazy. The staff member let out a strange smile. We haven't even gotten to the crazy part yet. We tested his spiritual power and it's approximately 650 to 670 points. Well into the spirit sea realm. That's absolutely stellar for his age. However, when we tried to dive deeper into his spiritual consciousness to investigate some more, our instruments went haywire. The instruments malfunctioned. Ling Yaoshu asked, eyes wide. Yes, that is correct. Out of consideration for his identity as a student of Shrek, we did not try more invasive instruments in fear of damage done to the brain. Either way, the instruments we used should have been able to probe the mind of a soul master at even the next spiritual realm. Next, we have the analysis of his blood and body. A series of numbers appeared on the projection, summarizing every aspect of his body. Every number exceeded what was considered ordinary for his age, especially his muscle and bone density, which surpassed the average by several folds. According to our evaluation, his power is absolutely astonishing. The staff member said, how is this possible? He's practically a beast in a boy's body. If he keeps growing at this rate, his body will be invincible by the time he's an adult. Apart from his mediocre soul power, every other aspect of him is excellent. Ling Yaoshu furrowed her brow. The data on Tang Wulin's body was extraordinary. However, that was when compared to the average same-age soul master. He was a student of Shrek Academy, so he should be compared against other Shrek students. Yet even compared to his schoolmates he was outstanding. Coupled with their inability to detect the tyrant dragon in his body, this proved an unprecedented situation for the spirit pagoda. Although the tyrant dragon's spirit soul was undoubtedly worth a fortune, the spirit pagoda could still bear it. The real problem lay in how the spirit soul had been lost and the possible ramifications for the spirit ascension platform. Since the platform was the core of the spirit pagoda, even the smallest of issues could rock the entire organization. Vice Chairman Lang, would you please direct us on how to handle this situation? Asked the staff member. Do we need to conduct a deeper examination into that Tang Wulin's body? There's no need, Gu Yue said before Ling Yaoshu could even part her lips. In an instant, all eyes in the room were directed at her. She did not cower under the pressure. Tang Wulin will be leaving for Douluo on an exchange in a few days, so the academy wouldn't allow another examination anyway. One of the middle-aged executives present glanced at Gu Yue before turning back to Ling Yaoshu. Then we'll just have to resign ourselves to our bad luck and all of our losses. Ling Yaoshu stopped him with a wave of her hand. Now isn't the time to talk about losses. We need to secure the spirit ascension platform first. Temporarily shut down the intermediate platform for a month to conduct investigations. Do not reopen it until we're certain there are no issues. Do not miss a single piece of data. When Tang Wulin is back from the exchange, we'll invite him over for another examination. I'll think of a way to convince Shrek. Glancing behind her, she said, Gu Yue. Yes, teacher. You'll be going on the exchange trip too, so keep a close eye on him. If anything strange manifests in his body, take note of it and report to me when you return. Yes, teacher, said Gu Yue, conscious of the fact that her previous outburst was for the sake of protecting Tang Wulin. She was worried that a second examination might harm him. That was the only reason. Back then, she hadn't been able to control her emotions and blurted her desires. There was no doubt that the spirit pagoda had suffered a loss today, but there was no recourse to be had. Because Tang Wulin was a student of Shrek Academy, they couldn't do with him as they wished. No matter how influential the spirit pagoda was, they dared not tussle with Shrek Academy. Even if they could get him back for further testing, there was the possibility that the spirit pagoda would find nothing once more, and they couldn't get him to compensate them either. It was not within Tang Wulin's power. If Tang Wulin had not been affiliated with Shrek Academy, then Ling Yaoshu would have tried any way possible to recruit him. As long as he became a member of the spirit pagoda, they would have access to him. More specifically, access to the changes in his body from absorbing the tyrant dragon, but that was not so, and they had to resign themselves to a passive position. Chapter 556. A year separation. Once he returned to campus, Tang Wulin immediately rented a specialized cultivation room. He meditated and inspected his body, scanning for any changes. After cultivating until the next morning, he still hadn't been able to find any changes. Not a single one. It was as if he hadn't absorbed the tyrant dragon. Tang Wuling couldn't make heads or tails of the situation, but there was nothing he could do about it. He was a bit nervous about the spirit pagoda's reaction to this event, but he was just as powerless against them. Once he had finished cultivating his purple demon eyes at the break of dawn, Tang Wuling ran into Gu Yue while on his way to the dining hall for breakfast. He asked her about the spirit pagoda's response to what had happened with the tyrant dragon, and she told him not to worry about it. The spirit pagoda wouldn't do anything to him. Don't worry about it. Tang Wuling's mind wandered astray as he walked with Gu Yue to class. Are they really not going to say anything? They just lost a tyrant dragon. They soon entered their classroom and took their seats. A moment later, Wu Zhangkong ascended the platform at the front of the class and took his place behind a lectern. Let's begin class. Rise. Tang Wuling called out in response, shooting to his feet along with the rest of his classmates to salute their teacher. Before we get into the main topic of the day, I have an announcement. Tang Wuling, Gu Yue, Xu Shaolon, Xu Lizzie, and New Zealand. Today is your last day of class. You have tomorrow off to rest. Then the day after you will depart for Douluo on the exchange trip. I will be in charge of the exchange group, so today will also be the last class I teach for the next year. While Tang Wuling and Gu Yue are gone, Wu Sijuo and Luo Gixing will act as the substitute class president and vice president respectively. Yang Niaxia will be a vice president as well, and fill in as blacksmith representative. Wu Zhangkong declared the rest of organizational changes for the class, ensuring that chaos would not ensue once the class leaders left. Although everyone knew that Tang Wuling's group would be leaving soon, they didn't truly comprehend it until Wu Zhangkong's announcement. The time of departure was upon them. Their class president would be gone for a full year. Only a few were envious of him, though. This was because they all believed Shrek Academy to be the greatest place in the world to cultivate. An exchange trip abroad was a wonderful opportunity to gain experience and broaden one's horizons, but it did not provide any benefits to one's cultivation. After class, Wu Sijuo approached to Tang Wuling. You better not let me surpass you in a year. Tang Wuling smiled wryly. I'll be looking forward to the day you do. Yang Niaxia came over with the other rankers and put his hand on Tang Wuling's shoulder in a brotherly manner. Class president, leave the blacksmiths to me. Rest assured, I will guide them properly. Tang Wuling faked a cough and gave a strained smile. You're the one guiding them most of the time anyway. You should have been the blacksmith representative to begin with. In truth, Tang Wuling had been ignoring his duties as blacksmith representative since long ago. He was far too focused on advancing his own blacksmithing skills to care for others, but no one in his class complained since he often accepted forging requests for free or a negligible fee. Furthermore, all of his products were top tier. In the past 2 years, he had shown his value to his classmates and raised his prestige to an unshakable height. None dared challenge his position anymore. Off to the side, Luo Gixing stared crestfallen at Tang Wuling. I wanted to go on the trip too, he said to himself, so soft that only those around him could hear. Ever since I was young I've dreamed of traveling to see the world. I never would have thought you guys would be one step ahead of me. His gaze hardened with determination. Just you wait until I graduate. I'll definitely explore the world too. Shu Yucheng scoffed. Graduate? It's way too early for you to even be thinking about that. Even though they were geniuses, graduation was still too far into the future for them. On one hand, while their battle armors were not made with spirit alloys, the armors were already 1/3 complete. With their current rate of progress, they would be full-fledged one-word battle armor masters once they reached the second grade, and likely be at least 5 ring soul kings. They were practically guaranteed to enter the esteemed ranks of the inner court at this rate. On the other hand, once they were in the inner court, they would be required to become 2-word battle armor masters in order to graduate. Until they met that lofty requirement, they were prohibited from leaving Shrek Academy. It would be a long and arduous process with success dependent on their talents and luck. Luo Gixing coughed, then shrugged. Becoming a 2-word battle armor master is kinda hard. I guess I'll have to push back my dream a bit further. Tang Wuling chuckled at Luo Gixing's nonchalant way of hiding his embarrassment. All right. Don't miss me too much then. I'll bring back souvenirs. Really? Wu Sijuo asked, perking her head up. Yes, really, Tang Wuling said. She poked his head in from the side, a smirk on his face. PSH. Don't get your hopes up, knowing how much of a cheapskate Wuling is. I bet he won't get you guys anything good. Tang Wuling glared at Shi. Would you die if you weren't being blunt? Do you even know what a souvenir is? As long as the souvenir has meaning, then anything is fine. How does the price tag on it matter? Everyone couldn't help but smile at Tang Wuling's outburst. This was the miserly Tang Wuling that they had grown close with. Tang Wuling's group continued to banter for a long time, all of them harboring the same reluctance to leave. They had grown fond of the hustle and bustle of their lives as students of Shrek Academy. It was here that they accumulated strength and learned about many fascinating subjects. This was Shrek Academy, the greatest academy on the continent, and perhaps even the entire planet of Douluo. They were all proud students of Shrek Academy. It was only natural that they were anxious about leaving for a year. By the time they returned, they would be in the second grade. All right. We should get going now. We've got lots to do before we leave. Tang Wuling finally stood up from his seat and looked back at the 100 desks behind him, nodding to himself in satisfaction. He walked out with large strides and blazing determination. I'll definitely be way stronger when I come back. I'm coming. Douluo. The sun shone with magnificence as it slowly moved through the shades of blue above. The weather was uplifting, fair and sunny, coupled nicely with a refreshing breeze. Tang Wuling and his friends had just arrived in Sky City, the largest city on the east coast. This was where Tang Wuling and Gu Yue had met Xu Lizzie in New Zealand. The Shrek Academy party numbered 10 in total. The leader was Kai Yue, and the teacher in charge was Wu Zhangkong. The students on the exchange were Tang Wuling, Gu Yue, Yuan and Yue, Yue Zhengyu, Xu Shaolon, Xu Lizzie, and New Zealand. Today they were to meet with the delegation from Douluo. After spending a year here, the Douluo delegation were prepared to return home. Due to the restrictions on airspace, they had no choice but to return by ship. In fact, it was impossible for ordinary planes or mechas to make the trip between continents. Normally, only battle armors possessed long-distance flight technology necessary to make the cross-continental trip. The Federation did possess technology that made it possible for planes and mechas as well, but it was top secret and they didn't want to risk having it stolen by foreign states. Come on guys, eat. Eat to your heart's content. It's all on me today. Tang Wuling declared to his friends. They were currently at the restaurant with the salt-baked fish Tang Wuling had visited during his last trip to Spicy City. Without even a word, New Zealand began stuffing her face. She still held a small grudge against him for making her and Xu Lizzie pay for dinner all those years ago. That damn bastard. I'll eat him clean. Just remembering that night got her blood boiling. The salt-baked fish had charmed everyone's taste buds, and they ravenously dug in. Unlike his students, Wu Zhangkong ate with refined grace. As for Elder Kai, she picked at the food for a bit then stopped. She was frozen in shock as she watched Tang Wuling inhale plate after plate. Damn, this kid can really eat. How did he feed himself back on campus? Elder Kai asked, glancing at Wu Zhangkong. Wu Zhangkong's hand froze as he was reaching for another piece of fish. His lips began to twitch as he turned to face her, nodding so slowly that it would have been missed with the lack of attention. Yes. Elder Feng promised to take care of all of Wuling's food expenses. So Wuling has been eating as much as he wants and sending the bill to Elder Feng. Elder Kai began cackled. No wonder that old fogey shed tears of joy when he heard we were leaving. This kid's stomach is terrifying. Wu Zhangkong's icy expression melted into a warm smile as he looked at Tang Wuling, who was in the middle of gorging himself. The sight brought back memories. If only she was still here. This scene of teenagers merrily chatting and feasting was the very picture of youth. Yuanan, eat some more. She said as offered her a plate of eagle-beak shrimp. The eagle-beak shrimp gave off a tantalizing aroma. It possessed an extraordinarily hard shell, but the flesh within was a true delight to feast on, especially with a healthy dousing of sauce. With Tang Wuling and Xu Lizzie's gluttony, they avoided these hard-to-peel finger-long shrimp and opted for the meatier dishes instead. Yuan and Yui's blank glance landed on Shi blankly for a moment. Then she accepted the plate, placed it down in front of her, and continued eating in silence. Shi rejoiced at her reaction. He was happy enough that she didn't reject him. This was progress. The exchange trip to Douluo was completely paid for by Shrek Academy, so he was taking it as an opportunity to close the gap between them. Soon, everyone at the table leaned back in their seats and patted their bellies in satisfaction. All except for Tang Wuling and Xu Lizzie that was. Those two were in a realm of their own as they continued to stuff their faces. Chapter 557, Silent Parents. Wry smiles formed on the faces of everyone at the table as they watched Tang Wuling and Xu Lizzie pile up dish after dish. The two were eating even more than usual. The owner of the restaurant walked over and exclaimed, "You two sure know how to eat. You cleaned me of all my stock." Although Tang Wuling had grown a lot and it had been a few years since the restaurant owner had last seen him, the owner still recognized him by his gluttony. Hey. I'm only, like, 80% full, Tang Wuling said, patting his stomach. Shu Lizzie looked up from his food, then wiped his mouth with a napkin using Glenn had passed him. I was actually full a long time ago, but I wanted to see how great the difference was between us. Tang Wuling pouted. Aren't you just wasting food then? You should have just let me eat some more. Here's the bill, the owner said to Wu Zhangkong, the sole adult at the table apart from Kai Yuya, who looked no more than a frail elder. It's 16,430 credits in total, but I'll give you a discount and charge you 16,000 credits. Wu Zhangkong glanced at Tang Wulin, who raised his head to the heavens and stared at the ceiling with so much interest it seemed like he could see through to the clear skies outside. Give it to me, Wu Zhangkong said, then paid the bill. Tang Wulin shot to his feet and cheered. Teacher Wu, you're the best. But I said I was going to pay for dinner. You should have at least let me pay half. Don't push your luck. Wu Zhangkong shot a cold look at Tang Wulin. No way. Tang Wulin blurted. Let's get going, Elder Kai said, rising to her feet and making her way towards the exit. She had agreed for them to eat here because of Tang Wulin's repeated requests, but as a titled Douluo, a single bowl of rice was enough to sustain herself. The Federation had designated the Grand Sky Hotel as the meeting point for the party. They were to rendezvous with the Douluo delegation there, then board a ship and embark on their exchange trip. The Douluo delegation had come on a single ship, but 2 ships were scheduled to depart. This was because the Federation decided to send a ship of their own to tag along. That way, it would be easy for their exchange group to return after the year was up. Soon, Tang Wulin's party arrived at the Grand Sky Hotel. The hotel was a place of prestige and luxury, a hub for the most illustrious businessmen to handle both pleasure and business. Wu Zhangkong led the way in and handled the check-in procedures. Anyone from Shrek Academy was considered a VIP throughout the continent, so they were swiftly handed their room cards shown to their rooms. Wu Zhangkong and Elder Kai both had a room to themselves. The other rooms accommodated 2 people each. Tang Wulin roomed with Shi, Shu Lizzie with Yue Yu, Gu Yue with Shu Xiaoan, and Yuan and Yue with Yu Xinglan. After you've rested and settled in, you'll have free time to do whatever you want as long as you're back by evening, Wu Zhangkong said. For the entire trip, Tang Wulin had snuck glances at Elder Kai, worried that she would make things hard for him, but she had been surprisingly easygoing and left everything to Wu Zhangkong. It was a breath of relief. As long as she didn't target him and his friends, then it was reassuring to have a titled Douluo by their side. So, what do you guys want to eat for dinner? Tang Wulin asked before they returned to their rooms. At the head of their group, Elder Kai's face went stiff. Then she quickened her pace as she tried to hide her laughter with her hand. Didn't he just eat? This brat's such a damn glutton. The rooms in the Grand Sky Hotel were luxurious. Although the room Tang Wulin and Shi shared was a standard 70 square meters in size for 2 people, their window granted them a breathtaking view of the seaside city. When they opened the window, the smell of the sea was carried into the room on a gentle breeze. As Tang Wulin stared out toward the horizon on the sea, he couldn't help but remember his childhood. When his mother and father brought him and Naira out to play on the beach. Mum, Dad, where are you? Why haven't you contacted me even after so long? Struck with a sudden urge, he took out his sole communicator and dialed the number. An instant later, the call connected. Wulin, how have you been? Is school going well for you? Answered Mangtian, his voice warmer than when he had still been teaching Tang Wulin. Everything's good. Teacher, how about you? Have you been well? Same old, same old. I'm doing just fine, Mangtian said. Ever since Mangtian had passed Tang Wulin to Mu Chen, he hadn't been in any position to provide guidance. In fact, Tang Wulin had already surpassed him. But as the saying goes, a teacher for a day, a father for life. Tang Wulin still respected Mangtian just as much as he did years ago. Teacher, Tang Wulin said, hesitance in his voice. He wanted to know if there were any news about his parents, but the possibility that something bad had happened to them frightened him. They still haven't contacted me, Mangtian said, clearly picking out Tang Wulin's unspoken question. For a moment, Tang Wulin lost his thoughts. Then he let out a sigh. It's been so long, yet I still don't know where Mum and Dad are. Teacher, you don't think anything could have happened to them, right? Of course not, Mangtian said firmly. Your father's message was clear. He and your mother are very valuable to the people who came to get them. As long as they hold value, then they wouldn't be exposed to danger. So, you don't have to worry. You've been doing well following the path your dad wanted for you. I'm sure he would be proud. Just wait until you graduate from Shrek Academy, then you'll definitely be able to find them. Okay, Tang Wulin answered. Yeah. As long as I become powerful, then it'll be easy to find Mum and Dad. And no matter where they are, my heart will always be with them. Tang Wulin bid Mangtian goodbye and hung up the call. His weary heart was bursting with motivation. For the sake of finding his parents, he had to spare no effort to grow stronger. Yes. Dad said that in this world, the only person I can rely on is myself. I'll be able to find them once I'm strong. I can probably ask the Tang sect for help once I'm promoted a few more times too. Didn't the whole master say we have branches on other continents too? If they're on another continent, then the Tang sect still find them. Still no news about your parents? She asked. Tang Wulin shook his head. None at all. I just hope there will be some good news once we return in a year. I'm sure there will be. Who knows? Maybe your parents will be waiting for you at your home by then, Shi said. Thanks for your words of comfort. Tang Wulin smiled. He walked to his bed and spent the rest of his free time that day meditating. His current priority was to reach rank 40, which would mark a significant increase in strength for him. As such, he could not waste a second that could be spent on cultivating. As for the golden dragon king seals, he wasn't too concerned about them at the moment. He had already broken the 4th, and according to old Tang, his body wouldn't be in any danger for at least the next 2 years. In other words, he had at least 2 years before he had to break the 5th seal. It was plenty of time to prepare the necessary spirit items. Previously, Tang Wulin had asked old Tang if his body would be able to endure even more power once he had a full set of battle armor. Unfortunately, old Tang did not hold the answer. The mystical spirit didn't have much of an understanding of battle armor. 3 days later, Tang Wulin received news that the rest of the delegation had arrived and that they would be departing for Douluo soon. Once he reached the first floor lobby, he found it packed with people. Chapter 558, Another Encounter with Lin Yuhan. The Douluo delegation easily numbered over 1,000 people, all of which were elites in their various professions. The Federation's delegation nearly matched them in number, so despite how large the hotel lobby was, it was bursting to the brim with people. The Shrek Academy group waited silently in the corner as the official in charge of the Douluo delegation came to pay his respects to Elder Kai. She maintained her cold demeanor, telling him in as few words as possible that the Shrek Academy group was ready to set off. As Tang Wulin quietly observed the Douluo delegation, he was surprised to find no obvious differences between the people from his continent and theirs. Apart from the Douluo delegation's more traditional attire, of course, but even that wasn't terribly conservative either, and it went without saying that both sides did not lack powerful people. Tang Wulin's eyes lit up when he saw a familiar figure, and as if feeling his gaze, that person turned to look back at him. It was Lin Yuhan. She stared blankly at him for a moment before her eyes widened in surprise, and she waved to him. He flashed a smile and acknowledged her with a nod. From the corner of his eye, Tang Wulin saw Yue Yu smirk and puff out his chest. Look, that girl just waved at me. As expected, this is a world ruled by looks. I just can't help it, he said, flipping his long golden hair out of his face to reveal his dashing smile. She rolled his eyes. Just how arrogant can you be? An ordinary person like you wouldn't understand what it's like living with a handsome face, Yue Yu said, shrugging. Look, she's coming over. Oh. She's pretty cute. Seems like this trip to Douluo might be fun after all. I'll be able to experience romance in a foreign land, he said, a smile forming on his lips as he stood up, straightened out his clothes, and strode over to greet the girl. Yue Yu was 16 years old and one of the working students along with Yuan and Yui. He looked mature and handsome, and perhaps due to the influence of his holy angel martial soul, his aura shone bright. Looking at him was like looking at the sun. In terms of appearance, the only person in their team that surpassed him was Tang Wulin. Hi, Yue said to Lin Yuhan, the smile on his face taking on a more gentle shade. Lin Yuhan looked at him, eyes narrowed. Who are you again? Lin Yuhan brushed right past the frozen in place Yue to Tang Wulin. Hi. I didn't expect to see you here. What a coincidence, huh? She said, a rosy blush on her cheeks. Tang Wulin smiled. Not a coincidence. My friends and I are part of the Douluo delegation going to Douluo on an exchange trip. Yue gaped at the two. He realized that the cute girl he saw hadn't been waving at him, but Tang Wulin, with a few quick steps, she was right next to Yue. He patted him on the shoulder. We live in a world ruled by looks. You wouldn't understand what it's like to be handsome. Yue's eye twitched as he turned to look at the other boy. On his face suddenly bloomed a charming smile, and he grabbed Shishi by the waist. Lips nearly pressed to Shishi's ears. He whispered, "It doesn't matter. To be honest, I'm not interested in girls. Ugh." Shivers ran down Shishi's spine, and he bolted away like lightning. The rest of the team watched on in a variety of emotions. Shu Shaoan and Shu Lizzie laughed so hard they fell to the floor, unable to pick themselves up even if they tried. Yuan and Yui couldn't help but let out a smile, as wry as it was, and Yu Xinglin shook her head helplessly. As for Gu Yue, she moved her gaze between Tang Wulin and Lin Yuhan, her lips pressed tight together. Lin Yuhan raised a brow at Tang Wulin. Are you here as a representative of the Douluo blacksmiths? You made any progress lately? I'm just here with my academy, and nope. Haven't broken through yet. Hee hee. Just wait till we're back on my home turf, then we'll have a rematch. I'll definitely beat you. A chuckle escaped Tang Wulin's lips. Sure. A rival is great motivation. I'm looking forward to our next match. Lin Yuhan held his gaze for what seemed to have felt like forever. In reality, it was only a few seconds. But she spun on her heel and left. Wow. Captain, your network is so wide. Yue Tangyu grumbled. Of course, Tang Wulin answered nonchalantly. Yue Tangyu turned to Gu Yue. Did you know about his flower picking excursions? Gu Yue rolled her eyes. He doesn't go picking flowers. The flowers come to him. The moment those words left her lips, Tang Wulin straightened his back and said, even when I'm surrounded by a field of flowers, not a single petal has touched me. Just when Tang Wulin finished speaking, Wu Zhangkong appeared behind him and smacked him on the back of the head. How old do you think you are? The chill in his voice cowed all of his young charges into silence. Ahem. Just pretend I didn't say anything, Tang Wulin said, averting his eyes from meeting Wu Zhangkong's. With a flutter of his robes, Wu Zhangkong swiftly moved back to the corner and leaned against the wall. Evidently, he had witnessed their little commotion just now from beginning to end. Teacher Wu, that's not right. Yue Tangyu said in defiance. We're in the prime of our youth, the period in our lives when we have the most fantasies. If we don't enjoy ourselves now, are we supposed to get more experience when we're old and wrinkly? Wu Zhangkong stared back at Yue Tangyu, eyes dull and devoid of any emotion. Not a single word left his mouth. Shu Shaoan giggled. PFT. So with your experience, you bought an entire drink shop just to get a girl's number. Yue Tangyu's face instantly stiffened. So what if I bought a shop? That shop is making me loads of money now, he said as he cautiously glanced at Yuan and Yui. He coughed. I'll reimburse your lost wages. Yuan and Yui only snorted in response and turned away. Her anger was rising to her head just thinking about the money she lost because of him. But after such a long time as classmates, she had already forgiven him for the incident. Yue Tangyu's words and action were not missed by Shishi. In fact, Shishi scrunched his nose and looked at Yue Tangyu as if he were a piece of stained underwear. One glance at your greasy hair and pasty powdered face and anyone can tell you're bad news. You trying to start a duel? Sure. Or are you afraid you'll lose? Shishi said, full of confidence. Enough. Stop putting on a show for everyone, Tang Wulin said, pushing the two apart. Their raised voices had already drawn a small crowd. Still, the government officials responsible for the exchange maintained order, even as more and more people crammed into the lobby. As the trickle of newcomers finally stopped flowing, the loudspeakers turned on. Hello everyone. I'm the Federation's Secretary General, Pan Wen, and I'll be leading the delegation going on the exchange to Douluo. I ask that the leader of the Douluo delegation quickly do a head count, then board buses 1 through 25. As for us, we'll be boarding buses 26 to 52. Please make sure everyone in your division is present now. Organizing large groups of people was always a challenge, and it was clear that Pan Wen was skilled at his job with how well he handled managing over 2,000 people from 2 different nations leaving for a foreign land. Once everyone was on board, a platoon of mechas escorted the caravan straight to the dock. Tang Wulin sat at the back of the bus in the aisle seat while Gu Yue took the window seat. This was par for the course. Apart from sleeping arrangements, everyone in their group knew that the seat beside Tang Wulin belonged to Gu Yue. Gu Yue leaned on the window with her eyes closed. After their adventure in the Spirit Ascension platform, she had returned to her normal behavior. She shared few words with Tang Wulin, but they held a deep understanding of each other. On the way to the dock, they had a clear view of the ocean. 2 large ships sat on the harbor. A single glance and Tang Wulin could tell that each ship had at least 5 levels to it and was installed with numerous lustrous soul cannons. The ocean was by no means safe after all. The Federation had to take precautions against the countless powerful soul beasts lurking beneath the waves. After exterminating the soul beasts on land, humanity had turned their sights to the ocean. The population of sea soul beasts rapidly plummeted, but they preserved their numbers by retreating deeper into the ocean. Even to this day, that was so. The only way to safely travel long distances across the ocean was with ships equipped with heavy firepower, such as the 2 ships in the harbor. Each was worth an astronomical amount. Tang Wulin had heard that part of the reason that Douluo had sent a delegation to Douluo was to show off their naval might. Even so, it would take them a while to catch up with the Federation's advanced technology. They soon arrived on the dock and everyone disembarked. Now that he was right in front of the ships, Tang Wulin could truly behold their size. The 2 delegations were not each assigned an individual ship. Instead, each ship would contain half of both delegations in order for them to intermingle and forge diplomatic relations. In the midst of such grand plans, the calm and quiet group from Shrek Academy was overlooked until it came time to place them on a ship. Chapter 559, Boarding the Ship. The Federation Secretary General, Pan Wen, walked over to the Shrek Academy group and bowed his head. Hello, Elder Kai. Pan Wen was a middle-aged man of average height and a balding head. He'd hardly stand out in a lineup of other senior government officials. In fact, he'd hardly stand out anywhere, despite his ordinary appearance. However, he was a rising star in the world of politics and had a decent shot at being appointed the chairman. Hello, Secretary General Pan, Elder Kai said curtly, maintaining the measured distance between representatives of Shrek Academy and the Federation. The two had never had a close relationship. Pan Wen smiled. Elder Kai, we've arranged for your honored academy's group to stay on the Douluo ship with the group from the Imperial Douluo Academy. Those are the same students who came on an exchange here. I'm sure they will be eager to entertain themselves in sparring with your students during the long voyage ahead. Elder Kai spent a moment considering about what Pan Wen had said. Oh, you mean those kids we rejected from visiting Shrek? Everyone in the vicinity turned to Elder Kai, gawking at how provocative her words were. A bead of sweat ran down Pan Wen's forehead as he suddenly began laughing. Yeah. That's right. How unfortunate that they had wanted to do their exchange at such an inconvenient time for Shrek. Isn't this a wonderful opportunity now during the voyage? Elder Kai grunted her affirmation and nodded. That's great then. Elder Kai, please allow me to escort you and your talented students to your rooms. Pan Wen hurried them along after giving them enough face. The truth was that he was helpless before her. In his lofty government post, he knew full well what sort of power Shrek Academy wielded. It had always been a challenge for the Federation in deciding how to handle Shrek Academy. In fact, the 2 main objectives of the Federation were to control Shrek Academy and the Spirit Pagoda. Of course, that was just wishful thinking. Those 2 organizations were the most influential throughout Douluo, and more importantly, all of the strongest soul masters congregated there. There was some room for cooperation with the Spirit Pagoda, but Shrek Academy was a monolith that refused to budge no matter what the Federation tried. They were forced to turn a blind eye out of consideration for Shrek Academy's hidden might and lack of ambitions. Shrek Academy had never expressed any intent to expand, and its students were moral soldiers that spread all over the continent. They were by no means forming an army, so the Federation could accept granting them autonomy, no matter how reluctant. Led by Pan Wen, the Shrek Academy group entered a special elevator that took them straight to the ship. As Tang Wulin's eyes wandered around, he caught sight of another group of people boarding the ship. They wore white uniforms, their faces reflecting the youth of those in their late teens. Then they returned Tang Wulin's gaze, pointing at his group. If he had to guess, Tang Wulin would say they were discussing Shrek Academy's green uniforms. Are those guys students from the Imperial Douluo Academy? Shishi asked in a murmur. Yue Tangyu wagged his finger at Shishi. Who cares where they're from? We can whip their ass either way. Shishi rolled his eyes. I'll believe it when I see it. Why don't you go over and fight them now? He scoffed. Bet you'll lose. Are you trying to stir up trouble? Yuan and Yui asked, shooting a sharp look at Shishi. You see that? Yue Tangyu said, puffing out his chest. My class president favors me still. You've gotten on her bad side with your shit stirring. This time, it was Yue Tangyu who was at the receiving end of her glare. He's not wrong either. A single look and anyone could tell you're no good. Hey. At the sight of Yue Sangyu's fallen expression, she broke into a laugh, an arrogant smirk quickly forming on his lips. Situated at the back of the group, Lizzie chuckled at the antics of his friends. Right beside him, Yingling just rolled her eyes. These boys and their boring nonsense. In truth, they were all bored. After going through an intense period of cultivation and studies, they had a hard time adjusting to such idleness. But now, ever since they left campus, each day had been spent with nothing to do but sit and cultivate. The same activity that had kept them busy before now felt less riveting in comparison. Without a quiet space to work in, Yingling hadn't had a chance to work on making any battle armor, despite how confident in success she felt at her current level. It was only the most complicated cores that proved a challenge, and she wouldn't be able to make them until she became a 6th rank maker. She still had a long way before she could make a breakthrough. The night before, after Yingling consulted with Tang Wulin, they decided that she would begin making armor for the rest of the team once her own was finished. Minus the core, that was. Once she advanced her skills further, she could make a core and complete her battle armor. After boarding the ship, Tang Wulin turned back to look at the shore. There, a crowd of people roamed about. They looked like tiny ants from a distance. Before he could enjoy the view further, staff members from Douluo came to greet his group and sort through their cabin arrangements. The ship was simply enormous and would easily have been able to accommodate every single person going on this trip by itself. But since they had 2 ships anyway, the passengers were divided between them. A couple of minutes later, they each had a key to their cabins. Thanks to the ship's excessive size, sharing cabins was unnecessary. Without a single word, Elder Kai immediately left for her room, which was situated on the highest floor, separated from the rest of them. Pan Wen continued leading the remainder of the Shrek Academy group with a smile on his face. Really though, Shrek Academy's uniforms are so ugly. I can't believe they can stand it, someone said with a tone of arrogance. The Shrek Academy group immediately turned to the source of the voice. As fate would make it, the voice belonged to one of the white-clad students of the Imperial Douluo Academy. There were 12 of them altogether, 8 boys and 4 girls. The one who had spoken was a short but rugged-looking boy. Yue Sanyu swung his head from side to side and put his hand to his brow as if looking around. Huh? What was that? I could have sworn I heard someone. Although the boy from the Imperial Soul Academy was short, he wasn't such a midget that he couldn't be seen. Yue Sanyu's words stoked a blaze of fury within him. Brat, what did you just say? The short boy charged at Yue Sanyu and rammed into him with his chest. Yue Sanyu didn't even bother to dodge. Whoa there. Oh, so this is where you were. Sorry, I have a bad neck so I can't look down. But well, you're quite, PFT, vertically challenged. The short boy jumped and ran to Yue Sanyu with his chest again, but Yue Sanyu didn't move a single inch. In fact, the short boy felt as if he had crashed into a metal wall. The moment his feet touched the ground again, he scurried back a couple of steps as he judged the difference in their strength. Is this how you people from Douluo show their affection? It's so strange. Do your girls do this too? Yue Sanyu said, stealing a glance at the 4 girls in white uniforms as he spoke. Hiding in the back, Tang Wulin couldn't bear to watch and covered his face with his hands. We don't know him. We just met this guy today. Do whatever you want to him and don't involve us. Then he turned around and began walking away briskly. That damn Yue Sanyu. All he knows how to do is stir up trouble. Gu Yue followed right behind Tang Wulin without the slightest hesitation. On the other hand, she patted Yue Sanyu on the shoulder and said, good luck, before leaving as well. Chapter 560, embarking on a journey. Are you guys even human? Yue Sanyu exclaimed, his arrogance shrinking down into an inkling of fear. No matter how conceited he was, he knew that he stood no match against 12 other people. The Douluo students walked toward Yue Sanyu with sinister expressions on their faces. Please wait a minute. Yue Sanyu thrust out his hands to act as a barrier. Hold up. I'll leave and we can let bygones be bygones, okay? Before the Douluo students could stop him, he turned tail and jumped off the deck. At over 70 meters above sea level, an ordinary person might as well have jumped to their death. The Douluo students rushed to where Yue Sanyu once stood, peeking over the railings. Yue Sanyu seemed to have completely surrendered himself to free fall, but before he crashed into the deep, cold sea, they witnessed a magnificent sight. Pure white wings spouted from his back, spreading like snowy fans upon the blue waters. It took a few seconds for the Douluo students to process what was happening, but by then it was too late to catch Yue Sanyu. He could fly, and quite fast at that. Coupled with the sight of his 4 purple soul rings, they knew they had lost their chance to beat him up. Yue Sanyu stomped through the long corridor in which Shrek Academy's group was assigned, the floorboards bending and creaking with his fury. Damn it. These guys have no loyalty. None at all, I swear, he said, banging on the cabin doors as he passed by them. Suddenly, one of the doors swung open. Out walked Wu Zhangkong, his expression twisted into a frigid frown. Who are you talking about? I was talking about myself. Without turning back, Yue Sanyu ran away. At that moment, Tang Wulin opened his door and stuck his head out just to see Yue Sanyu's hurriedly retreating figure. He couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. What's with this guy? He's normally so uptight on campus, but the moment we leave he's become all crazy. He can't go a single day without causing trouble. The cabins that the Douluo delegation had arranged for them were quite nice. Each was about 40 square meters in area, complete with a personal bathroom and a balcony that looked out onto the sea. Basking in the sea breeze and watching the churning of the waves was quite an enjoyable experience. Tang Wulin had been reluctant to go on this exchange, but now that he was on the ship, he was excited for what was to come. His tense mood loosened as he thought about the marvels he would see. At noon, the horns were blown 3 times and the 2 ships departed from the dock. The ships quickly picked up speed, setting off toward to brave the vast sea. As the massive ship cut through the water, not swaying in the slightest, Tang Wulin leaned against the railing of his cabin's balcony and peered out toward the horizon. He took in a deep breath of the aromatic sea air and enjoyed warmth of the sun kissing his skin. Hey! Tang Wulin turned to the direction of the voice. It was Gu Yue. She stood on the balcony neighboring his, only 2 meters away, and the two shared a smile. You know, I'm starting to think this trip isn't all that bad. Somehow I spent my entire childhood living by the sea, yet I never actually went out on a ship, Tang Wulin said. I haven't either, Gu Yue said pleasantly. The two settled into a lull of silence as they watched the land shrink into the distance behind them, until it was no more than a speck that disappeared into the horizon. Through the clear waters, they could see schools of fish swim by, and the occasional large predator chasing after. Wulin. Tang Wulin studied Gu Yue, raising a brow. In the end, she smiled and shook her head. Nothing. I'm going back into sleep now. Bye. Gu Yue's incomprehensible actions left Tang Wulin flabbergasted, but he did not pursue it any further and retreated from the balcony as well. No matter how relaxing it was to watch the sea, he had to cultivate. He wasn't going to reach rank 40 by just lazing around. The pressure weighing upon him was enormous, and he could not afford to slack off. A minute later, he sat on his bed cross-legged, mind focused on cultivating. On the other side of the wall they shared, Gu Yue too sat on her bed, staring out the window toward the sea. She pressed her lips tight together, a turbulent fog among her eyes. He really is too good. Naya, maybe you were right, but no matter what, I won't let you two be together. The heave of a sigh, and her eyes cleared up to shine with resolution. The 2 large ships continued cruising toward their destination, each separated by a few kilometers. Thanks to the pleasant weather, both ships had a clear line of sight on the other and could help one another at a moment's notice. Soon the blue of the sky bled into twilight, painting an enchanting scene across the sea. Attention all passengers. Attention all passengers. The ship's broadcast system was loud and clear. Welcome aboard the SLS Seafarer. Tonight, we will be having a grand reception to welcome everyone. Please attend in formal attire. We'll be hosting some friendship exercises and interesting games to foster good relations between our 2 continents. We invite everyone to attend. Friendship exercises. Tang Wulin roused from meditation and pondered the meaning of those words. A satisfied smile formed on his lips as his mind shifted back to cultivating. Perhaps due to the release of all the stress he had accumulated over the semester, he had made clear progress during this cultivation session. In fact, he felt on the verge of reaching rank 39. Once that happened, it would just be one more small step to rank 40 in his 4th soul ring. When that time came, he would have the soul power necessary to truly proclaim himself a 6th rank blacksmith. At the thought of blacksmithing, passion blazed in Tang Wulin's heart. Earlier he had confirmed that there were blacksmithing workshops on the ship for the guests to use. Of course, there was a fee, but even when disregarding that and instead focusing on his burning desire to hit things with his hammers, at the very least he still had to wait until after the evening party. Formal attire. Do I even have any? After a moment of thought, he realized that the only clothes he possessed were a few sets of his school uniform. A knock on his door spurred him from his thoughts. On the other side stood Gu Yue. Did you hear the broadcast? She asked. Yeah. The friendship exercises might be fun, but I'm more interested in what food they'll be serving, Tang Wuling said, nearly beginning to drool at the thought of food. Gu Yue's eyes glazed over. All you know is how to eat. Tang Wuling could merely shrug. What else would I do there other than eat? We need formal clothes to attend. Do you have any? Oh, do you think our uniforms count as formal attire? Tang Wuling asked, scratching his cheek. Gu Yue scoffed. I knew you wouldn't have brought some. Here, take this. In a flash of light, a set of clothes appeared in her hands. These are. Gu Yue giggled. It's formal clothing. After receiving the clothes in his hands, Tang Wuling could feel just how exquisite the craftsmanship. There were several pieces to the full outfit, and each piece was of impeccable quality. Where did you get these? Tang Wuling asked, gawking at her. The corner of Gu Yue's mouth worked up in a smirk. I bought them, of course. I got them custom made for you since I guessed we would be having an event like this. In fact, I got you several sets. Tang Wuling's eyes were as wide as humanly possible. She got these made for me, with a hint of a blush on her cheeks. Gu Yue raised her head haughtily. I didn't want you to embarrass me. Now hurry up and go change. Then she turned and left for her room. The clothes clutched tight in his hands as he closed the door. It took a full minute for Tang Wuling to snap out of his stupor. Warmth rushed to his cheeks as he gazed at the clothes. How many years has it been since someone got me clothes like this? His thoughts traveled back to a sweeter time, a time when his parents were still around and life had seemed so much simpler. Back then, what had his mother said? Wuling, Mum made you some new clothes. Wear it for the new year. Look, it's a brown suit. Don't you think you'll look charming in these? I'll have to make you a suit every year from now on. Then when you're finally all grown up and get married, I can look at those suits as a record of your growth. Mum and Dad are gone. I couldn't fulfill Mum's wish. The suits she made me are still back home in Eastie. Gu Yue. She made me clothes. She got these made for me. A few teardrops painted dark spots on the otherwise exquisite fabric. A warm smile formed on Tang Wuling's lips and he held the clothes to his chest. A treasure cradled near and close to his heart. To Gu Yue, perhaps this was a simple gift, but to Tang Wuling, it was a different story. It was so much more. The action brought back sentimental memories of his parents and childhood home. Reminded him of what having a family felt like. Cold as Gu Yue usually acted, she couldn't help but meddle when it came to Tang Wuling. Gu Yue, thank you, Tang Wuling said, from him a voice that could melt the heart of any maiden. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.